One of the biggest challenges right now with 3D printed construction is meeting current building codes and getting building permits. This is because the building codes haven't been updated to reflect the latest advancements in the 3D printing technology. As part of our expert interview series, we're speaking with Stefan Mansour, who is helping to write the updated international ISO and ASTM standards, which are going to govern 3D printed construction. Stay tuned for the top 5 things you need to know about 3D printed construction and building codes. Thank you for joining us, Stefan. You have experience actually constructing 3D printed buildings in some of your previous work, and you've run into this issue of building permits and regulations and building codes. What are some examples of some of the challenges that you've run into and what you've had to do to work around them?
Yeah, and basically the issue came up with when we had an independent consultant or a third-party architectural firm come into play to actually certify the structure. And they're coming thinking that, okay, I'm going to see a normal house. Where are my beams? Where are my columns? I'll just check off my list and I'll just issue the certificate. Our house didn't have that. So, I mean, like when you look at the initial design, the walls were 4 or 5 times stronger than traditional concrete without any rebar or support reinforcement, just basically printing the bead or the material on layer by layer. But then when the architect or the consultant came to look at the design, it's like, okay, well where's your rebar and where's your concrete? And I need a beam in order to support the roof. And no matter how much you try to show them that, okay, yes, we tested this material, it's different and it's stronger and stuff, it never actually resonated with the architectural firm because they're still looking for their beams and columns. We eventually had to retrofit the structure with beams and columns, traditional beams and columns, even though it was overkill. And then we put a hollow core roof on top with parapets and so on.
So Stefan, you are on the committees for the ISO and ASTM standards. How do you expect these updated standards to allow the 3D printed construction market to grow? And when do we hope to see these updated standards so we can start to implement them in the construction industry?
Now, it's like sort of like a catch-22. For construction and 3D printing construction to actually move forward, you have to have the foundation for it to actually build and move forward. And that foundation are the standards for this sector. You can go ahead and print pilots, one-offs here and there, but in order to actually go commercial and go scale, and for the general contractors and the clients to actually accept this product, they have to have some kind of standards and guidelines to do that. So I started reaching out to the various people that I knew, standard agencies, ISO, ASTM, and TÜV at that point. They said that they were looking into this, but they haven't had any committee to actually address this. So we actually, I said, okay, what do you need? They said, okay, we have the initiative. We just need the participation from the market. And I said, okay, leave that to me. And I just started getting in touch with anybody and everybody I knew in the market. And we got that together. And then we started, it became an ISO ASTM committee as of March of this year. We have a draft in place. It's actually going out for initial voting and commentary as we speak. My intention is to have, or my hope is to have this standard published by the summer of next year.
Why are these standards so important to 3D printed construction, and what's being done to update the standards to match the latest technology that's now available?
The need is now, and especially if you look now, for example, in North America alone, in the past couple of months, people are printing houses in different areas and different states. So the need is there. And GCs or general contractors are waiting for these standards to come out to actually use 3D printing with all the troubles and the issues that we're facing in the construction sector currently in terms of workforce, materials, the price of lumber, and so on, and other needs in the market. GCs are actually looking at 3D printing as a different tool to put in the construction sites to actually improve performance, productivity, and the way they do business.
So the creation and adoption of these ISO and ASTM standards will help accelerate the adoption of 3D printed construction. From your perspective, what is the current housing crisis, and how will 3D printed construction help create more affordable housing?
When this happens, from the standard side, when this happens, then you enable 3D construction printing to become commercial on a mass scale, so that you're actually printing 10 houses, 100 houses, and 200 houses, not just 1 or 2 or 3 standalone items. When you do commercial, you learn more. The first house is not going to be like your 50th house, because you're actually optimizing your material, you're optimizing your approach, you're optimizing your solution, you have lessons learned. So things get better, but we need to get to that point where we can actually go commercial and improve the solution. And then, yes, maybe in a few years after we've optimized the solution, we can go into and say, yes, we have affordable housing in place, and 3D printing can deliver that. We're, like you said, we're not there yet, because all the cost and all the resources fall into that one structure. So the cost of the material, the cost of the solution, the cost of the labor is all on one structure. So yes, it's not affordable, but if you stretch that cost over 100 or 200 houses, then yes, it could probably end up being affordable.
In construction projects, we're oftentimes hearing about material shortages and labor shortages, and even how young people aren't as interested in learning skilled trades or getting involved in the construction industry. With the adoption of these new standards and the acceleration of 3D printed construction, how is that going to make the construction site more efficient, safer, and help entice young people to be involved in this industry again?
The way I try to explain 3D printing, it's not there to take jobs away from people. It's not there to replace the workforce. The fact is that the workforce is shrinking, and it's becoming more expensive. And in order to actually help the workforce, or the current existing workforce, to actually tackle the demand of projects that are out there, then 3D printing can offer that tool, because it can help. One thing, it can alleviate the burden on the existing workforce in order to actually meet the demand for the projects that are out there. And it helps them have a safer environment, instead of having to deal with carrying heavy loads, or dealing with having to be on top of structures in order to put in the beams or the columns, or to build the structure. Then that could be done, all the tedious or the very unsafe activities within the job site can be handled by the robotics, and not necessarily just for printing, but also for doing the finishings and the plastering and the tiling and so on. So all the heavy duty is handled by the robotics, and then the talent for the existing workforce that is on the job site can be focused on where it is needed most, not necessarily doing the menial work, but putting that expertise to the best job on the job site.
Thank you, Stefan, so much for sharing your experience and expertise, and all the work that you're doing to help develop these international standards and accelerate the adoption of 3D printed construction. If you like this information and you want to stay up to date on the latest trends and advancements in 3D printed construction, make sure you like and subscribe and hit that notification bell, or you can reach out to us directly at Ctrl+C Construction.com. That link will be down in the description.